Hello everyone, my name is Brian, but you can call me the Bugler, and today we're going to be talking about the Sentinel Titan subclass Grenades and comparing the supers from both skill trees. First up, we have the Magnetic Grenade, which is a sticky grenade that deals extra damage to enemies it's attached to. After that, we have the Void Wall Grenade, which is a damage over time area of effect type grenade. And finally, we have the Suppression Grenade, which is a grenade that causes any enemies to be hit by it a suppression effect. Let's start with the Magnetic Grenade first. The Magnetic Grenade is primarily a single target damage grenade. It does have an area of effect explosion, but it deals the most damage to the enemy it's attached to. When attached to an enemy, you'll see will deal 2 instances of damage on that first explosion, and that's that extra explosion damage from sticking to someone. All in all, we can deal 778 damage with one Magnetic Grenade to the modular mind. When we look at the damage falloff of this grenade, you can see that it is fairly severe, but it's not so bad that you won't deal damage to the enemies around the one that you stick. And for those of you who are keeping score, this grenade will outdamage the fusion grenade from the Sunbreaker. And now onto the Void Wall Grenade. This grenade will create a wall of void light when you throw it that is perpendicular to the momentum of the grenade. So here you'll see me throw the grenade at the modular mind's feet to create a wall. We deal 127 damage, and the grenade's fire will last for 6 seconds. It should damage any enemy that is caught inside it, but for some reason there, I did not damage the modular mind. Let's try again. So for take 2 here, I've decided to get much closer to the mind in order to ensure that he's standing on the Void Wall Grenade. Well, for some reason, he still does not receive any additional burn damage. The total here is slightly higher at 143, but it should be much higher, and I can't figure out why that is. In fact, I only managed to deal the full amount of burn damage to the modular mind in 2 instances. What you're about to see is one of those. Every time I tested it, I could not get that additional burn effect to damage him, even though I could get it to damage smaller enemies. Here, the initial explosion he is actually immune to for some reason, even though we're able to damage him right now. And then we deal 10 ticks of 242 damage because he's standing in the entire duration of this grenade, for a total of 2,420 damage. That's fairly significant. The only issue is, I don't understand why the grenade is behaving so strangely. I'd advise you be careful when you use this on larger enemies, because you might not deal the full damage you're expecting. And finally, we have the last grenade, the Suppression Grenade. This is my personal favorite, and I tend to use it more often than not because of its large explosion size and secondary effects. We'll talk about the secondary effects later, but let's look at the max damage first. We deal 7 damage on impact, plus 828 for the explosion, for a total of 835. It's also an important note that this is the same max damage you can reach with the Flashbang Grenade for the Titans, so it looks like we've discovered a little archetype for grenades. I think that's really cool. And here's the minimum damage we can deal thanks to the fall-off from the explosion. This is also the minimum damage I've been able to deal with grenades as a whole. By hitting him with the tail end of the explosion, we had managed a nice 2 damage. But the explosive damage of this grenade is not its main selling point. That would be its suppression effects. No matter how much damage you deal to an enemy, if they are eligible for a suppression, which is most enemies except for bosses, you would suppress them. That means that they are unable to use any abilities. So the Hive Wizards will act stunned, or if you hit a fallen captain, they won't be able to teleport. In PvP, however, this has another interesting mechanic, which I'm going to show you right now. Suppression Grenades will take you out of an active super. That's right. The Suppression Grenade is pretty much a hard counter to any super that someone can use. It will also stop them from using any abilities, including their grenade and double jump, for 10 whole seconds. This is very useful in PvP, and it's the only grenade that I could recommend you use when you play as the Sentinel Titan. And a fun little bonus, if you play as any of the Titan classes that have a charge ability, you will lose that charge effect around your screen if you're suppressed and start sprinting before the effects wear off. This doesn't have any actual benefits, I just thought it was a cool visual glitch. Let's move on to the main event. We're going to be comparing the supers now, starting with the Ward of Dawn for the Code of the Protector skill tree. This isn't going to be a direct damage comparison because the Ward of Dawn on its own will not cause any damage, but you can use the Ward of Dawn as a tool to deal plenty of damage. I'm going to show you an example of that, but when I talk about the highest damaging super in my Titan video coming this weekend, I will not be including the Ward of Dawn because it does not deal the damage on its own. I'm going to also show you something cool that you can do with the Ward of Dawn. If you activate it in the air by holding down the super buttons, you'll push yourself towards the ground at a faster rate. This will negate fall damage. However, it has its limits. You can only travel a certain distance before the ward is cancelled. So let's look at the damage we can deal thanks to Merciless and the Ward of Dawn. When I count all these damage numbers, I deal a total of 15,515 damage, and that's due to Merciless's high damage output plus the extra safety that Ward of Dawn offers me. When standing inside the Ward of Dawn, which lasts for 30 seconds by the way, you're granted Armor of Light, which will give you a strong overshield as long as you're inside the bubble. With this, you're able to stand in there and kill any enemy inside. So who's really trapped in that Ward of Dawn? You or the person inside with you? And now we're moving on to the Code of the Aggressor's second shield modifier. This gives us an additional shield throw charge while our Sentinel shield is activated. This won't increase our damage that dramatically, but it will give us an extra tool to use from a safe distance. The shield throw does the same amount of damage as a regular melee with the shield, so 566, which you'll see right now. The bash, however, deals more damage than a regular attack or throw, at 828, or 1.46 times the base damage. All in all, we managed to deal 6,708 damage, and that's due in part to the shield's other effect, where if you attack in midair, you can negate some of the pushback the boss offers. If you block by holding the left trigger, you will not block that knockback, but you can counteract it by attacking in the air. And remember, while the Sentinel shield's damage was not as high as what we could do with the Ward of Dawn and Merciless, it was still higher than anything the Gunslinger could offer or the Striker Titan, which is still significant in my opinion. And that's the end of our breakdown. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions about how I conducted the tests or why I might not have included other footage, let me know in the comments. A lot of what I do doesn't make it into these videos because I want to keep them as concise as possible. For my next video, I'm going to be doing what I'm calling a Titan Best in Show. I'm going to talk about what subclass and skill tree is best for what activity in certain categories. I still haven't decided what categories I'm going to test, so if you have any suggestions, let me know in the comments. The only thing I'm going to actively avoid is anything to do with the raid or the main storyline, because I don't want to spoil anything for the PC players who are trying to avoid it. So once again, thanks for watching. I hope I see you next time. And good luck getting through the exclusion zone.